I assume we're on air now, so just for any of those who are tuning in, we're waiting for one more member to arrive. We'll start the meeting in a few minutes. Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I imagine Chair Kent will arrive at any time and he can just jump right in, but we will call this meeting to order. And we will ask for the roll call. Or should I go ahead and do the, I'm sorry, it's been a while. Yeah, we'll do the call to order, roll call, and then we'll do the land acknowledgement.
Commissioner Abbott?
Here?
Commissioner Chang?
Here.
Commissioner Chin?
Here.
Commissioner Oji? Here. And Chair Kent is not here yet.
On his way, presumably. All right, I'd like to read the land acknowledgement. The City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lejeune. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. All right, very good. Approval of the minutes. I think there were two vote items, the minutes, and then designating Chair Kent as to be involved in the, yeah. So we have a motion to approve the minutes.
Yes, I move to approve the minutes.
I can second that. Okay, I have a vote.
Roll call for the vote. Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Frank?
Yes.
Commissioner Chin?
Yes.
Commissioner Oji?
Yes.
And just for our new members, just FYI, the minutes they're called action minutes, so they really only record votes. So you need to take your own notes, is what the point is. All right, thank you. All right, so now we can open it up for public comment. If there's anybody who would like to speak about something, tell the commission about something that is not on the agenda, now is your opportunity. Do we have any online or?
I'm not seeing any hands raised. For our new commissioners, can you please make sure you press the button on your microphone? It needs to be highlighted green so that way they can make sure we hear you.
It's push on, push off, and there's a green light when it's on.
You can leave it on if you want to just have it be continuous, or you can turn it off after you get done.
All right, seeing no public comment, we can open it up for staff and commissioner announcements. Are there any announcements from staff?
Okay, I do have a few announcements. As of effective immediately, Jim Bensman, our previous commissioner, has resigned. A vacancy notice has been sent out by the city clerk, and the appointing council member has been notified. Come enjoy your holiday celebration with family, friends, and neighbors at this beautiful outdoor venue for the 4th of July in the park. from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Memorial Park. There will be live entertainment with 2 bands, the Honor Brass Band at 11 a.m. and the Impulse at 12:15. Food trucks will be the Chairman, Eye of the Pie, Curveball, Sliders, and Brown Cap. There will be an interactive play area for the kids. Albany Chamber of Commerce will have free ice cream giveaway at 12 p.m. For more information, you can go onto the city website at www.albanyca.org or call the community center at 510-524-9283.
So I just have a quick update on the search for the small projects manager. We have made an offer to a candidate, and this person's accepted it, and we're going through the background check. So we're real excited. I don't want to give out more information, but I want to tell you that we're in the process, and I think we have someone good.
Oh, that's exciting. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I do have a couple announcements. First, I want to mention that a week from Sunday is a Strollish Summer. This is the small stroll-like events that the Solano Avenue Association has periodically, I guess quarterly, and that's on Solano Avenue from noon to 5. It used to be 10 to 5, but nobody came between 10 to 12, so we're just going to do noon to 5. But that is also the day that there is a Juneteenth celebration. This is, I think the city's involved in this, at least to some degree, and that is at Solano and Masonic that same morning, I assume, or most of the day. And that's been a great event the last few years, so we're excited to see that continue. And I want to shout out to Robert Abrams at Abrams Clycorn Gallery, who's really been driving that and is doing a great job on that. Did you have something to add? Okay. Okay. Then I had a question for you folks. I don't think this is the commission to address it, but I wanted to ask, because you're public works, but the street banners are looking really bad right now. Is there any?
Yeah, they were beaten up pretty good this last winter.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to wrap our heads around how we're going to just replace, take them down. So we don't have a clear answer on that right now.
All right. It's again, I don't think
on our
it's
list.
the commission. Yeah.
It's on our list that we're picking.
I was just hoping to get an update, and I did, so thank you.
Yep.
All right. I think that's it. Any other announcements? Perhaps must be an opportunity to
Yes.
name the commissioners?
I would like to introduce our 2 new commissioners, Jeremy Chin and Martin O.G. If you have anything you would like to say.
It's the way we.
Well, I'm excited, feel honored and privileged to be able to serve in this way. I love the city of Albany, so look forward to helping in any way I can.
Thank you. We're
Perfect.
happy to have you on
Thank
board.
you.
Yes.
Great.
Welcome.
All right. Closing announcements. We can move on to presentations. I believe we do have a couple presentations. So item 5.1, street tree inventory summary.
That'll be me. Give me one moment as I pull up my slides. Okay, I have began sharing. Gosh, okay, that hurts my heart a little that the font did not make the cut in the first line, but all's to say. Anyway, good evening, commissioners. My name is Natasha Gallatin, and I'm a Civic Spark Fellow for the City of Albany's Community Development Department. And for the new commissioners, or for anyone who is not familiar with Civic Spark, it's an AmeriCorps program that's dedicated to building capacity in local public agencies, especially for emerging environmental and social equity challenges. And I believe the city has hosted over 5 or 6 fellows at this point, so have been really grateful for the opportunity to be able to present in front of a commission, among other opportunities. So yeah, great program. And I'm also wearing this shirt today because I had a service day before this, but allow me to jump into why I'm here today. So I'll be presenting a brief overview / summary of the data collected as part of the inventory. And we've been referring to this as phase 1 of the street tree management plan. So effectively, this is a summary of phase 1. This is a summary of all of the data that was collected, and I will also touch on how this will influence the forthcoming plan and a couple of next steps at the end. But I'll go ahead and just dive in. And yeah, I want to provide a little bit of background, especially for our new commissioners as well. But a street tree management plan was identified as a priority action item in the city's climate action and adaptation plan that was unanimously adopted by council in 2019. And it was also referenced in the city's general plan and a couple of other planning documents. But essentially, it is going to be a critical plan that's going to essentially plan the way the city is going to maximize its canopy for the future generations to come. But the street tree inventory is the first step to the development of the plan, and it's essentially laying the foundation for all of the recommendations and strategies that the second phase consultant will help the city with. So the contract for the inventory, the contract was with Arbor Pro. They're a ISA certified urban forestry firm, but the contract was taken to and authorized by council in November, and Arbor Pro began the data collection process sometime in mid-December with some pauses with the holidays and the unprecedented winter storms, and ultimately concluded in April with all of the quality assurance checks to ensure accuracy, because again, this is going to lay the foundation for the plan. So we're going to dive into some of the species statistics. I won't dive too much into any kind of like implications, analysis, or anything. I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the information that we received. So the total number of street trees I really wanted to make this into a game and have you all guess how many street trees were in the city, but the total came out to 4,807 street trees, and it was broken down by the number of species, and I'm so glad that this was able to be good quality. So you can kind of see the breakdown of the top 5 most common species that were found in the city. Number 1 being the crepe myrtle. And when we were in our final meeting with Arbor Pro, they also let us know that crepe myrtles were one of the common street trees found in other jurisdictions as well. And you can also tell that out of the 4 most common species, out of the 5, 4 are deciduous trees, because these pictures were taken sometime in the winter and all of the leaves were shed seasonally. So we have a really great diversity in the city, 171 distinct species. Arbor Pro let us know that that is pretty impressive for a small city, especially with just 4,807 street trees. And it's really important to have that diversity because it withstands additional threats. So if you have like a monoculture, one threat can wipe out an entire species. So it's important to have that diversity, and Albany is already in a good place with that. So this is kind of the breakdown of the species. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to some of the other metrics that were recorded in the inventory. So one of the standard measurements of like arborists is the diameter at breast height. So they take the measurement 4.5 feet from ground and use a specifically calibrated tape measure to measure the diameter. And you may be able to see that roughly about 75% falls under the 12 inches in diameter. And this we see a little bit more skewed towards the smaller side because a lot of new trees have been planted in the city in recent. So you'll notice that, a quarter of the trees are 0 to 3, so recently planted, and got little baby trees. And then we see that they increase in diameter, and we do find a little less of the larger trees, but in the next slide, I'll also show that some of the planting constraints for why there aren't too many of those large species and large trees in the city. But additionally, the DBH can be a way to, not the most accurate way, but to assess the age of a tree, and it also can be used to measure the volume, biomass, and the total number of carbon that can be stored in the tree. So I'll go ahead and jump to the growth space. So nearly half of the trees that were inventoried are in a planting strip that's 27 inches or less, or 27 kind of refers to 25 to 30 in that range. However, there are a lot of implications with the narrow planting strips in Albany. And so this is important information that we are going to ask the consultants for the next phase to be able to address some of the unique constraints that Albany faces when planting new trees and location consideration, among other things. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And you can also explore the community viewer now. It is publicly available, and I will go ahead and just walk through how to get there and some of the things that we can do with the community viewer of the inventory now. So it's currently accessible via the Sustainability Resources and Events page under Sustainability, or the Open Space, the Parks and Open Space Parcel Tax page, which is under the Finance Department. But let me go ahead and just, show you a little bit. So we go under the department. So the first location is under sustainability, and you can just jump to the urban greening section. You might have to scroll down just a little bit. And our community viewer is readily accessible through there. And alternatively, you are also able to go to, again, back to departments, go to the finance section, and go to the very bottom where it says Parks and Open Space Parcel Tax. And there is also a little drop-down menu for the street tree inventory. And you can also learn a little bit more information about that. Some of the contract information that I was speaking on earlier can be also found there. So this is what you'll see when you land on the community viewer. And let me go ahead and go to the next slide. So it's essentially a Google Maps. You can kind of drag the page around. You can also scroll to zoom. So I go ahead and do that. And at the top left corner, we have the search bar where you can actually input your own address and a couple of other things, which I can get to later. But in this example, I just find a tree right on Marin. And you can also pan through the couple of pictures that were taken, and you'll learn that this is a Brisbane box. I've been usually using the common names. So yeah, we have the Brisbane box trees along Marin. And as I was mentioning earlier with the search, you can also drop to find using the botanical or the common name. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the common name and find all of the Brisbane boxes in the city. So I go ahead and do that, and it'll jump out, and now you can see where all of the Brisbane box trees are. Okay, so that's one of the things you can do. You kind of have to have kind of like a game plan going into it. If you, again, the most common thing might be, what's the tree outside of my house, and just finding what the species is. So excited for the community to be able to play around with that. Okay, and we don't want to play that video again. Okay, so for next steps, so we are currently in the process of selecting the consultant for the second phase, and unfortunately, Chair Kent is not here, but we owe a lot of gratitude to Chair Kent for helping us with the reviews of the proposals and participating in the interview process. So really, well, he's not here, but if he's listening, much appreciated. And so we are hoping to bring that update in a future meeting, along with the results of the preliminary survey that we actually have circulating currently. And I'm just gonna go ahead and share a flyer for that if I'm able to. Okay. I guess not. Oh, so yes, so this is the community survey that we have circulating right now. You may have come across it on the e-news and perhaps other city channels, but we're just gauging, this is a preliminary survey. We're gauging the community's values, perceptions, and essentially priorities as it relates to the street trees in the community. And we are going to have this open until June 30th. We've already had a couple hundred responses. We narrowly missed the AUSD last day of school, so we're still hoping to get a lot of students. So if you all have student connections, would love to have this survey circulated, but yeah, we'll come back with the results of this as well in a future meeting. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump back. But yeah, the next slide would just say questions and discussions. This is the end of the presentation of the inventory. Thank you so much for listening.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think it's then time for questions and discussions. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or? Yeah. So now it's open to the commission to ask questions. So we're going to ask clarifying questions, then we go to public comment, anything the public wants to say, and then we bring it back for discussion. So if you have any questions about what you just heard or would like to hear more? Any questions? That's fine. I mean, it's a new topic for you. I know. I thought you might.
Yeah. I have a question about the consultant selection. I know that Commissioner Kent went or was part of that process of selecting or reviewing applications, and he did share with me just one of his concerns about sort of the proposals that were submitted, and that some of them. He felt like they needed at least some sort of design element, and they just seemed, yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's come up, and that's what I think one of the beauties of having a landscape architect participate in that, because he brought in a whole new perspective that I think, not getting too far into it, that that's in my mind something that distinguishes the types of firms and how they answer that question, the questions related to that.
So I just wondered if there was what's the process then right now, or where is it actually? Because I know he
We've done interviews with all three firms. I think Commissioner Kent's, he wasn't in the last meeting, but then was going to follow up. And then we're going to get together and talk about next steps.
Okay, so nobody's been selected yet. Okay, because I know that his concern was sort of some of the, well, I don't want to say too much, but about whether or not the consultants that did submit missed the mark because of language. And so it just, to me, is sort of, I'm glad that it hasn't been decided yet, because, and I know Jeff's here too, and talked initially, it came presented to us about the RFP in and of itself, which is funny because in the back and forth, when we first talked about the RFP development, we understand why the name master plan was changed, but there was some confusion with the name just management plan. Seemed very much more like a technical sort of, how are we going to get this done, implementation versus a sort of bigger picture. How does the city of Albany vision an urban forest for the city, for the community? So it seemed like his concern was exactly what we were really trying to push in that discussion of RFPs. We want it to really incorporate a vision, not just like, okay, how do we, manage the trees? Yeah. So.
That's being expressed in the discussions with the consultants.
Right. Well, so I just want to convey, this is my opportunity to say something about that. It is especially since Commissioner Kent's not here. It's too bad. I actually asked him to follow up. I didn't even think about the fact that we'd be talking about it today. So it's my regret that I didn't follow up and get more information before talking to you. Sure. Is there a way to, I know that he's part of this process, but given that I don't know the status of it, I guess I'm just wondering if there's a way to follow up with you outside of this, just to see how it's going. 'Cause
Good evening. My name is Jeff Bond. I'm the Director of the Community Development Department. I'm happy to talk to you about where we are and the proposals received and what the next steps are in detail. It's not really formally part of your agenda tonight, so I don't know that we should go long and deep into it. And it's still an evolving process. And just out of respect for the firms that are in play, I don't want to talk about them too publicly.
Yes, I totally understand that. And thank you, because I know that both of you put a lot of thought into that RFP. So I just want to make sure that, as a city, we're getting what you all need, given that I know what your intent was. And anyway, so thank you.
I think I have a good feeling about the three firms that we selected. There was nobody that we're just like, oh no, this isn't good. I think they're all good firms. They've done a lot of this kind of work in different cities. And it's going to actually be, I think, a really tough decision to pick from them. So.
Great. And just to clarify, there was no, because I'm saying this, like doing secondhand, there was no concern about the quality of the firms. It was more, if there was a scope of work, any sort of missed mark in the scope of work. So that's what I'm talking about. Because I know as a consultant that you respond to a proposal. It's not that you're not necessarily saying this is how it should be. You're responding. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, it's any planning process in the city of Albany is kind of an organic thing. It grows, it changes, it evolves. You're going to be deeply involved in this. You'll have every opportunity in the world to give feedback to us and to the consultants over the next year or so that it's being prepared. We would never come in and say, sorry, you can't do that. You have a great idea, but you can't do it because we've already decided.
Great.
If we need to put more money into it or change the schedule or something like that, we'll do that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I do have a quick question. Can you say something about any plans for maintaining this inventory? You're just going to track as you go along, or?
So that's an interesting thing. So we're doing a lot of these. Sidewalks, we have a street lighting inventory going on as well. The street trees, that's one thing that we need to work on our side, the GIS, as things change, that this keeps, we want to use these as tools going forward. So we haven't worked all of that out quite yet, but yes, that's something we want to keep and maintain.
Kind of related to that, how often do you find, or maybe it never happens, that people just plant their own trees? They don't know. They just have an empty space in front and they just plant a tree. And maybe John would.
John might answer that better.
It happens.
Yeah, I mean, a lot? Is it something that would be challenging to keep the inventory up to date, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's a small percentage that are property owner planted. I, of course, prefer that they send in applications, even if they're going to plant their own tree.
Right.
So I know it's in the right place, not in front of a stop sign, or the right species of tree.
Right, right.
So.
Yeah. All right, no, that was kind of a general question. Just curious. All right.
I would say one more thing on this. So we have this with street signs as well, and we've developed tools, and even it's never going to be 100% perfect.
Oh, no, of course.
And so when we do see something that's off, we just update it to its current. So it's not, as long as we have a process that's getting most of the changes, when we come across something that's not right.
And having somebody whose job it is to keep that up to
Yeah,
date is important otherwise.
the beauty of Albany is we're a relatively small city that we can get out to pretty much anywhere very quickly and confirm something before making a decision. So it's a starting point for.
And is there a clear way on the tool itself for the public to submit, hey, this is wrong? It's probably not going to run into that now, but in a couple of years, you may well. I'm just curious.
I'm sure there is, but you've exceeded my GIS capabilities.
I'm skeptical that you're sure. All right. Any other questions before we open? Oh, yeah,
Sorry, I do have, related to that question. So sorry, I'm not clear. Is it going to be, John, would it be you that would maintain this? I wasn't
Good
clear.
question.
Sure. Unless we had somebody else that we would hire to do data entry or whatever, but I think I've done a little bit with it already, a little editing where there's a little bit off, but my feeling is where there's something major, something important, I'm going to go in and edit it. I've added pictures. Some of the photos were in the winter when it was dark, and they're not very good photos, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's going to be a tool for me to use, basically. So.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, I just see some, even just the Washington Street, very contentious trees are
Yes.
still up there, so,
Right,
yeah.
well, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, no more questions. We can open for public comment. Is there any public comment on this? Very good, please. Yes, please. And speaking in the microphone, it's being recorded. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but thank you for your presentation. It was really awesome. My name is Estrella Sandberg, and I'm a new resident of the city of Albany. I'm really excited to be here. I had a couple questions and then just a few thoughts. I hope to be back at these meetings, and I can input on that in communication with the consultant as it happens. But we'll share it now as well. So just a few thoughts. Like one, I'm wondering if the city of Albany has a parking spot to tree ratio. So if not, if that can be considered into the long-term management plan. Also, it'd be really awesome to see maybe a heat spot overlay on that map. because I think that will obviously lead to some actionable items for the city. And I'm new to town, but I already heard that there's like some tree issues in this little mountain over here. So maybe that's an understatement. So obviously I think that should be included. And then now to maybe my question, what was that? Yeah, I think the last thing is there any possibility to extend that June 30th deadline for the survey to after that July 4th event? Just because I think that's a really great opportunity to maybe have a table out and get engaged with the community. So just a thought. But nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
I think I'm going to go out of line and say that was a great idea.
I can answer some of the questions. First, yes, I can go ahead and extend that. And for the heat spot overlay, to my knowledge, for the second kind of phase, the development of the plan itself, there will be a significant analysis that will be conducted using this inventory, in addition to like publicly available canopy, land use data, and a lot of other things. So it'll just be more than the trees on a map. It'll provide insight and deeper understanding into the conditions and how this forest, the urban forest, can be preserved and expanded for, the next couple of decades, years.
Great, thank you. And I would say that at this point, and this is one of the things that the street tree plan will consider, I think, is it's really up to the property owners to plant. It's not like we can just go in and plant a tree at this point. So a lot of the tools we have now are making them free or encouraging, having drives, things like that. So that's where that goes. But that might change depending on how the process goes. Okay, any other, we can bring it back to the council, or is there no online?
No online
Very good. Bring it
hands
back
raised.
for discussion, anything you thought you have, anything you'd like to add, discuss? Yeah, please.
So sorry, about the community survey, I probably missed it, but is there like a way to access that online or?
Yes, let me go ahead and I can give you the actual link, but it'll also be in a couple of different city channels, like on social media, so it might be easier if I forward you that, perhaps.
I also think the idea she brought up to extend it is excellent, because way more opportunity for people to see it, hear about it, and having a table at that Memorial Park that was a great idea, so I think that.
Appreciate that, yeah. You don't really need anything from us. Is there any feedback? I did have one more question, and we asked, and I'm sure this is clear in the data, but I haven't looked at the data yet, so I'm going to ask it anyway. When we were looking at this, I guess the RFP, one of the commissioners asked about, city trees that are not on the park strip, but in the encroached area, or in that 12-inch. Or 8-inch or whatever space on the other side of the sidewalk, and if that would be included.
At this point, that's not included. It's just the street trees between the sidewalks and the
That's enough. I mean, that's a big lift, I know. I just wanted some clarity because I remember that question being asked.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else? We can close this item. Well, thank you very much. It was a very good presentation. I do trust that the presentation will be available.
Yes, we'll post everything on the website.
Maybe as a PDF so the fonts will stick.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, next item then. Tree risk assessment using Albany street tree inventory. Seems like a very logical next step.
You know where that is? It's on SharePoint. Forestry, in Public Works or Forestry.
Okay. You want me to get to it, or?
John, you're supposed to tell me.
Or can I just do it here?
You can do it.
You can do it from there. Yeah,
Sounds like an excellent idea.
much better.
Oh, no, I'm not in control.
While they're working on this, did they go over kind of how you get the materials for the meetings ahead of time on the city website? Did they make that? Okay, just want to be sure you. Okay, excellent, excellent. And the other thing I would say is keep checking back, because things add, and sometimes even change. If it changes, usually let us know, but yeah.
Yes, I tried to send out an email, but I didn't send out an email saying that the staff report was posted. So sometime, since it was posted late last night, I didn't send out an email.
To
The
Multi-
multi-check.
Factor authentication.
Yes.
Gets you every time.
Yeah. I work with clients, and man, it's a nightmare. Client work. Oh.
Is this,
So normally in something like this, we have the newest commissioner member sing. Is that what we do? We don't like dead air here, so.
One of them sing, the other one does a little dance.
Oh, no, they stopped that when it was me. That's right. They just, we're not doing that again. That's what.
you did so well, you hit on Mark. That
Yeah, no, I don't think that's what it was.
What was it under, John?
Public Works under urban forestry, and then there's a couple of pros.
Okay, I'll try to get to it.
Go to the urban forestry webpage. No.
Oh, that's not it. Let's get to, where is it? There we go. Public Works?
No.
He said,
Urban forestry. Yeah. One take you through. And then he said there should be a pros.
In documents, is urban forestry, and then there's a photo of pros.
I don't see it for tonight.
I'm logged in now, but
Go to documents.
It just gets you here.
Go down.
I'll put it on.
Okay, go back to documents for me, please.
You know, is it may be, did he have
Oh, is there an actual urban forestry folder?
yeah. Oh, here it is.
Maybe there,
Um,
but I still don't see it. No, it's not there.
Arbitro, here we go.
Share your screen?
I think I'm getting there.
Okay.
I think, John, is this it?
You gotta share your screen so he can see it.
Hey, John, is this it? Can That's it?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can go first, next slide. All right, so some of this is going to kind of overlap what Natasha presented already. So we're looking at the top 10 species from the inventory here. Next slide. And this is what the entire inventory looks like.
John, can you turn your mic on for me, please?
I would also ask for you to quickly introduce yourself for the new members on the commission. No, that's fine.
I'm the city urban forester.
Thank you. I just,
Where are we? So this is just what it looks like from space. This is our inventory. Next. And this is the list of almost every species and how many of these species we have in the city. Just so you get an idea of what we how's that? Okay. I saw the green light, but.
you're doing great. You're doing great. No worries, no worries.
So this is, I'm just giving you an overview of what we're seeing with the completed inventory. So next slide. These are the trees that are 0 to 3 inches. They're not all newly planted trees. Some trees are just that small still, but most of these are. Since 2016, when I started, we planted 725 new trees, and this year, about 80, which was a little bit low compared to the last couple of years, but still not a bad number of trees. Next slide. So this is a summary report showing the conditions of all the trees in the city. So most of our trees were assessed as being in good condition as opposed to excellent condition or very good or excellent condition. We have one tree that was assessed as excellent condition, which kind of says something about the state of the trees and the conditions that our trees are growing in here. We have a lot of fair trees. These are probably the trees that I'm dealing with more often. Fair being trees with dead branches and maybe in decline. We have a handful of board trees. Those are the ones that they will come to you folks sooner than later when we look at them a little closer and may need to remove or do something. Next slide. Okay, this just shows a percentage. I'm just showing you the different reports that I can pull out of the inventory, graphs and pie charts. My next one is line graph. Again, showing the conditions. Most of our trees are in good condition, followed by fair condition trees. Next slide. Okay, so here's the top 10 trees that are considered in poor, critical, or dead condition. So one of the ways that I can use this tool, this inventory as a tool, is to look at statistics like this. And I can pull up this list and I'll take, since we have platanus, which are the London plane trees, tree that's up and down Marin mostly. It looks like that's our highest number of poor condition trees. So I can dive a little deeper into this. The next slide. So I can go into the inventory and ask it, query it to pull up all the London plane trees. And you can see almost all of them are along Marin Avenue. If you've driven up and down Marin Avenue at all, you can see how these trees are kind of sparse in their canopies. They're not looking too good. I'm going to say they're old for one thing, but they're stressed from years of drought and weather extremes that we're having. So next slide. So these are the trees that were assessed to be in fair condition, and
And next slide. These were trees that were assessed as being important issue for the London plane trees. Next slide. This is just to show how you can zoom in and you can get a good overview of which tree. You can actually see the picture, or you can get a map view of where the trees are also. Next slide. And you can take one of these trees and you get a quick overview of what the tree is, a little bit of information about the specific tree. And the tree ID, every tree has a unique ID number. If you click on the tree ID number, next slide, it opens to the data sheet for that specific tree. You see the photos, see the map, and just some general information. There's not a lot here. This tree, you see the address, you see the size, the tree condition being fair. Clearance, none, that means blocking street signs or stop signs or street lights. Observations made were that this tree has dead wood, so it needs to be cleaned up. So that's more than likely where it got its fair condition assessment. So there's room for notes, there's room for, we can add more pictures, we can add more notes, we can add more comments, and we can change as conditions change with these trees. So that's something that's how the database will be used, that's how all they use the database. Next slide. So I'm going to get into a little bit about tree risk. We see these trees listed as fair or poor. These hazardous trees, not necessarily. But this is an indicator for us to take a closer look to see if possibly these are hazardous trees. So first thing we try to figure out is tree risk. What is tree risk? Combination of likelihood of tree failure or severity of possible consequences of tree failure. And by tree failure, that could be limb failure or complete tree failure. Every tree has a potential to fail. Luckily, we don't have too many major problems when we do have tree failures. We can't eliminate all tree risk. The risk depends on factors such as what type of species, the soil conditions, the amount of moisture they've been getting, too much or too little, history of failure in the tree, the growth space of the tree, wind factors. There's a lot of factors that are involved. Next slide, please. So, for a tree to be considered hazardous, it must be defective in either some part or as a whole, with likely risk of failure in a target that is threatened. So a target could be people, property, activities that are damaged or disrupted by failure. Targets can be either static, so a building, a house is a target that's static, you can't move it. If a tree is about to fall, you can't move the house. If there's a car, you can move a car. If there's people, you can move a car. If it's mobile, it means maybe a tree's going to fall into the street and there's some traffic that's moving through the area. So we determine what the consequences of the tree failure will be by looking at the target and the target zone. If there's no target, if the tree's in the middle of a forest, then it's going to fall over. So be it. If the tree's hoping there's not a grade, it's going to fall up because there's pathways, trails through there. But if it's in the middle of an area where people don't go, and the limb falls out, we're not too concerned about that. So the target zone should be considered at least as wide as the tree is tall. And who determines this would be, typically is determined by a qualified individual who's trained in horticulture or tree risk assessments. Next. So tree risk assessment qualification, we've shown that to track. This is an International Society of Horticulture qualification that trains arborists on how to use methodologies outlined in the ISA's Best Management Practices for Tree Risk Assessment, which was written in accordance with the American National Standards, ANSI, A300 Tree Risk Assessment. promotes the safety of people and property by providing a standardized and systematic process for assessing tree risk, and there's just some references to develop these and where it came from. Next slide. So I'll go over this kind of quickly. Just the track one, level one inspection is basically what I'm doing when I'm out there. I'm driving up down the street or going to an address, somebody called in and they're concerned about their tree. I'm going to look at the tree. I'm going to just get a general feel. Is it healthy? Is it in decline? Are there dead limbs? Obvious damage to the bark or decay or whatever. This is just a quick visual observation. So a general visual observation, I should say. So next slide. Level two, it's a little more in depth. Someone's going to go in there with mallets and test the trunk to sound out the trunk to see if it sounds unusual, if there's hollowness, if they're looking for decay in the trunk. Basically, they're going to spend a lot of time. It's also a visual observation, or maybe a binoculars look up at the ground, or use mallet or some other hand tools like that. But it's generally a visual observation, but it's one that's done systematically, and it helps determine whether the tree is at risk of some sort of failure, and also they're going to observe what type of targets are in the area. So this is generally when we hire, in the past we've hired an outside consultant. They're track qualified. It's a specific qualification with the ISA, and we hired them to do this more in-depth assessment of trees. Next slide. If during the track level two, there's some question as to the stability of the tree, or there's possible decay, but we're not really sure, we go to the next level, and this is where you do structural soundness testing on the tree. There's a tool called resistograph, which is set up and it does soundings through the tree. And it's kind of like a radar, kind of gives feedback of sounding through the tree to tell you how structurally sound the trunk is at different levels of the trunk. It can also be done with core sampling. There's some small core samplers that we can check in the tree and also find these things. So this is considered the more advanced, most advanced. Once we get through this, and we've had this in the past too. We've had the tree Memorial Park where we did some sampling, and we found that there was indeed some serious decay in the trunk of the tree. Next slide. So one of the reasons we're talking about this today is because you have some concern about a particular species on Solano Avenue, the eucalyptus calii. This tree came down in a storm on January 4th. Landed between two cars. That's the trunk after the crew came in and cleared the ground out of the road. Next slide. And then this one came down on March 21st. Both of these were these cyclone bomb storms that we had. So heavy winds pushed these trees over. Next, one click. This is what the tree looked like beforehand. Now this tree and the tree before it, level one observation of this tree looked healthy, looked fine. There was no indication that these trees were going to come down. There was no decay around the base of the trees. Nothing, not really any dead wood, maybe some smaller dead branches in the ground, but nothing too drastic. So we're concerned about why did these trees come down, and we're concerned about other trees coming down. So next slide. So again, I go back to the inventory. I pull up all the eucalyptus nicolii or Nichols little leaf peppermint trees. And you can see they're all basically along Solano Avenue. There's a couple just off the Solano Avenue here and there. Next slide. This is just another view. This is the map view of Next slide. And then again, I dig down a little deeper. I'm just going to go with one of these trees. 1330 Solano is the flower land. So there's a nice, really large, full canopy tree there that the folks at Flower Land are rightfully concerned about. They've called me the high wire coffee cart and the Flower Land people have called me about this. So I pull this up and I see that, okay, Arbor Pro considers this in good condition. So am I concerned? I'm concerned because there's something going on with the species, even though this is, Arbor Pro's telling me that they're assessing this as being in good condition. So next slide. So again, tree risk is determined by potential targets, and Solano, being Solano, main commercial corridor. And with these two eucalyptus failures makes this a species of concern. So again, I use the tree inventory to determine how many of these trees there are in Albany, where they are. From that, since there's not hundreds of them, it was fairly easy to take a quick look. We can say a level 1 assessment of these trees. And I found 10 that I'm concerned about. And Arbor Pro had rated only 3 of them in fair condition, the others are in good condition. But I have reasons to be concerned about these others. 2 of them are hovering over a parklet, temporary parklet that's probably going to be a permanent parklet at some point. So we're really concerned about that. That's going to be more traffic for people in a stationary spot for a long period of time. So these 2 trees, we're just going to go right to level 3 on these. We're going to make sure that there's no decay. We're going to have the roots inspected, the trunk inspected. We want to be sure these trees are safe. And then the other trees will have a level 2 inspection. And they could possibly go to level 2, but we're hoping that level 2 will just give us a good idea of the soundness of, or lack of soundness of these trees. If there is a lack of soundness, then we go to level 3. So once we get these assessments, this will help us figure out what we need to do with the trees. Are we going to prune out trees? Are we going to have to remove some of the trees? Are we going to have to expand the basins? It's not really a lot of room for basin expansion. Most of these trees have filled their spaces already. Next slide. So here are the trees that were chosen. And oops, I can't see the slideshow in front of me. No. Sorry. So I made some markings. The inventory doesn't do this. I did this on my own. The trees rated as fair or have the red kind of stars on them. The yellow circles are all where we want to do level 2 track assessments, and the 2 squares are next to each other. Well, it's in one square, 2 trees, where we want to do the level 3 track assessment. Next slide. So, what's next? We do the track assessments. If we need to, if the track assessments indicate we need to do further inspection, we'll go to track-free level inspections on these. We develop a plan of action recommended by the inspections or guided by the inspections. And we can bring all this back to you and see what we have and talk about it. All right, thank you very much.
I don't want you to get beat. So. Thank you very much. We'll bring it to the commission for questions. Any questions you have about the presentation, the material?
Yes, I have a question. So I believe you mentioned most of the poor trees on Marin. Are there poor trees on Albany Hill as well, or has that been taken care of?
The street tree inventory doesn't cover Albany Hill or our parks. It's specifically street trees along that parkway. But the answer to your question is yes, there are some poor trees. But also, when I showed you where the
you're kind of giving us a run-through of the tool is what you were, for that portion, yeah, what you can, how it's being used.
Actually, could I jump in? For context for our new commissioners, we have a separate project that's looking at trees on Albany Hill that will be coming to the commission. So they're trees, but they're separate.
It's considered an open space.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I guess I have one about maybe just the poor trees on Marin. Are you, or even just poor trees generally that you identify through the inventory? What's the next step on that? Like, is there, you know, I'm assuming you're not going to go to the necessarily risk assessment, but is there anything to do to sort of help them get better?
Wouldn't get better. Well, it depends on why they were listed as poor, and a lot of these trees, I know a lot of these London pine trees, they have a lot of dead wood there. There's a lot of dieback in those trees. So what we do with that type of tree, camphor trees are similar to they're large, mature trees with a lot of dieback. We clean them out, and then we come back next year and see how they're looking at that point. There's not a lot that we can do with trees. These are old. I don't know how old these trees are, but these are old, some of the oldest trees.
Yeah, I mean, I recall in you know, one of the past meetings that there hadn't been like a full-scale pruning. So would then, might this help guide that then? Like, there'll be some sort of, I don't know, these are, like, just because you see that they have dead wood, then does the city have the capacity to do that? Or do you kind of have a contractor go out and do that as a, you know, project?
We'll have contractors.
Okay. Is that a regular thing where you, I'm just curious, because I remember hearing that it was like several years ago that we did our last, you know, comprehensive pruning, so.
It's fairly regular, but it's been tree by tree, or in the case of camphors, I had the northwest area pretty much cleaned out from camphor trees. No, but as it stands now, it's added as things come up, as issues.
Okay.
So it's not-
Okay. And then the other question I had about the track assessment, so it sounds like there's 9, I was a little bit confused, 9 that are going to undergo track 2, is that right? Or about
8.
8, okay, 8, and then 2 that you've already identified as needing track 3.
Yeah.
Right, so if it goes to track 2, depending on what the results are, it might go to track 3, is that right? Or it might,
Yes.
okay. Curious about how, I mean, because this is, you know, all those trees were felled from that one really unusual cyclone bomb. I'm just wondering how other cities are dealing with this, knowing that, you know, it might have been, like you're saying, it wasn't obvious to you that these trees were a hazard. And I don't know, I guess I'm just wondering what the thinking is of other cities that have also experienced like these very dramatic events where trees have fallen down where they haven't fallen down for 30 years. So I guess my question is like, not to say that I appreciate that you're being proactive, but how do we factor in things like untimely, you know, events that may happen once every, I don't know, 30 years, to whether or not we actually take an action and consider it to be riskier than if it, you know, we didn't expect that another bomb cyclone in the next few
Sure,
decades or something.
sure. Well, there's
Turn your mic back on, please.
I think it is it?
Now it is. Yeah.
Is it? It seems to goes off. There's a few things there. These events seem to be happening more frequently, for one thing. So we're concerned that this wasn't a freak every 30, 50, 100-year thing. This is every year. We're seeing more and more unusual extreme weather. Either last year we had no rain. We had a little bit of rain at the beginning of the year and no rain. This year we had rain far beyond the normal range of when the rainy season stops. As well, we had these crazy windy events, these bomb cyclone events. So, I mean, since this did happen with this particular species, we need to be concerned. We need to look at this species. We can't say, well, this was a freak thing and it won't happen again. These are large old trees. They've been assessed as being in fair or poor condition, some of them. Some of them are assessed as being in good condition, but as we saw, the ones that came over appeared to be in good condition as well. I see a lot of dieback. I see a lot of sparse crowns. We get limb drops. We've had some huge limbs come out of these things, not as frequent as some other tree species in the city. But we've removed a couple of trees in the past because of this. I'm thinking the one on was in front of the church on the corner. There was a huge limb that dropped across the street. A couple blocks away, there was a limb that was the size of a bus that came out of one of these trees.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what are the other cities doing? Because I imagine that other neighboring cities are also having this same concern, or, you know.
I would imagine they have the same concern. I would imagine they're doing the same thing, looking at it. I don't know.
Okay, so you're not sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So this actually ties into the question I had, and what do you think, so the trees that fell during the storm, they didn't break. It wasn't a structural thing, it was a root thing, right? What I remember being so shocking is it didn't damage the sidewalk. They just kind of pulled up, and that was the frightening part. Would the track 2 detect, I mean, because structurally it seems like it's sound. Do these tests evaluate that, or?
The track 2.
I'm sure it's more than you described in your presentation.
Yeah, the track 2 probably might not have determined that. That's why we want to go with track 3, at least on a couple of these trees.
Yeah.
And then we might do further on more of the trees. It's the way they failed was really unusual.
Yeah.
We had another large tree failure, a coast live oak on Pomona, that the whole root ball came up and it lifted a section of the sidewalk up, 6, 8, 10 feet in the air. And these trees didn't do that. They just kind of gave up right at the base, and that was it. So we're concerned that there's something maybe going on in the ground. There's maybe some decay or something fungal thing or something that's happening in the ground. So,
and that's even harder to determine than other ailments. It seems like you need to get.
Well, a track 3 might suggest that we go that step further and do some analysis for fungal diseases or other diseases in the tree.
Okay. And with the overall inventory, would you say that they performed like a track 1 on all those trees, or was it not even quite to that level? Because I imagine there's a lot of trees.
I'd say it's a track 1 because they had to stop at every tree. They had to measure the DBH. They had to take a picture of it. So excuse me, the only thing was in the winter, which for some trees that made it easier to assess the tree, and some trees not as easy because it may look like, I'm guessing a lot of the London plains actually look like they had dead limbs, but they're really just dormant at that point. So,
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? No? Okay, we can open it up for public comment. Feel free. Yeah, sorry. Everybody needs to hear.
Yeah, I guess along similar lines, I was thinking, like, how is this species, how is this species reacting in other places, not just what our city's doing in response to these extreme events or these, what are we calling it, odd events, but also, like, what about this species, or is there anything new that we're learning about this species across the country? And maybe we can connect, like, I know there's tree people, maybe they have they're a nonprofit, I'm sure they'd love to help us learn more.
Yeah, I'm not aware of too many of these trees other than in Albany.
I don't even know which one it was, yeah.
It's the big eucalyptus, it's a eucalyptus, not the typical blue gum, it's a large, dark brown, rough barked
You're saying you're not sure if other places have this kind of tree? Or
I'm not aware of anywhere that has it. Solano is sort of unique to be lined with these trees. Also, Albany is kind of unique in its climate, the soils. We're not similar to the rest of the country, basically. We're a little bit different. We're pretty similar to Berkeley, but even a little bit different. We're directly across from the bay. We get when there's fog, we get the fog or the cold winds, the cold air. So we have a little bit of a unique situation. And if there is a fungal thing in the ground, in the soil, it could be location specific. So it might not be a species-wide issue throughout the country like Dutch elm disease or something like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Not seeing anything online?
I'm not seeing any online.
Logged in online. Okay, very good. All right, discussion, requests, comments, commission? Go.
I mean, I would just say that I totally understand being proactive. I'm a little bit concerned that we weren't aware at all that it was a hazard, and now, so how would we know that the next ones I don't know. It's just, to me, it seems like it's illogical already that the ones that you didn't deem a hazard fell. And I would not want us to be hasty. And the reason I say this is Solano, there's real benefits to our public to have shade, to have big, mature shade trees. And people want to walk. And we know the Albany Solano stroll is so hot without a tree. And so I would just want us to be not hasty and make really thoughtful decisions before removing a tree, especially since the wasn't apparent why these trees fell. So to me, it doesn't. I don't know, I'm feeling uncomfortable with this sort of, I totally understand we should be proactive, but I also feel like when we actually look at the recommendations, I'd like us to be thoughtful about what we're choosing to do, after we get the track 2 and 3 assessments.
Sure. This is why we're doing the assessments. We're not out to remove trees unnecessarily. We want to have an in-depth look at the tree, and we need to be concerned about the safety of the public too. Being a little hot and sweating is not as bad as having a
tree fall on you.
a tree fall on you.
Not put too fine a
Or on your
point on it.
car even. Well, a car, cars can be replaced, but people
Actually, I
cannot.
want to jump in here. I think from my perspective, one of the big drivers is when something unexpected like this happens, we want to understand sort of the basis of that so we can act accordingly. So we're not looking to take out trees. We're looking to understand what the underlying issue is. And then in some senses, if it is, hey, this is just susceptible in a high winds, that helps us plan for storm events.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're not looking to take out the trees. We're looking to understand what the underlying issue is and then come and have a discussion about it.
Okay.
And I would add that should you find that, well, yeah, these trees ultimately are going to need to come out, I would like to see, a real plan for that so that they're not all replaced at once so they become a problem at the same time again. Replace them over 10 or 20 years so that when these trees come to their end of life, it's not all at once.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And probably echoes what Chairman Kent has been talking about in the interviews with the firms. So absolutely get that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about something. You may have mentioned this and I missed it. Why, is there a reason why most of the poor trees are in Marin and not other streets?
Again, I just showed you the poor London plane trees, a specific species. So they're
Gotcha.
scattered, different species are
So that was
scattered
just
throughout the city.
one particular.
That's, yes, and it's on the eastern section of Marin, it's maybe the only species. There's one or
Gotcha.
two others, but
Okay.
yeah. So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
It just happens to be the species you chose.
Well, it was
They only
species-
exist on Marin, so.
It was the species that came up in the inventory as having the highest number
Right,
of
right.
trees in poor or fair condition. So I just took a little more in-depth look at that. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question. When were those planted?
When were they planted?
Yeah. More than, before your time, right? Like more than
Oh, yeah.
5? Okay. Okay, because I was just thinking, because it's.
Probably
40,
before his
50,
time.
60 years ago, maybe?
What's that?
They're old trees.
They're old
40,
trees,
50,
okay.
60, maybe, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
so.
One thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned that every tree has a unique ID. I would like to see that, and perhaps you will, but when we do receive an application, that ID is attached to the application so we can view the tree in the database.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
That's a good
I
idea.
mean, we could presumably do it anyway, but I just like the idea of the
Yeah.
database person in
I
me
can
says,
update
let's
the
have that ID.
I can update the application so there's a space,
Yeah, yeah.
place to put that.
Yeah.
John, can you give us a sense of timeline on this and sort of when we might target this back to the commission?
I don't really have a good timeline right now, but I'm hoping we get this done before we get into cold weather, before we get into stormy weather again, so.
Okay.
All right. Any other, no, please, go ahead.
So I think you mentioned there was that tree on Pomona that fell, and it was with all the roots were taken out of that tree. And I was wondering, was there, unlike those Solano trees, you said they didn't look like they were going to fall before the event, but the storms. But did that one have any indication? Or
That one also was a healthy tree. It was maybe our largest coast live oak in the city, which isn't the greatest street tree, but that tree's probably around 50-year-old tree, or was a 50-year-old tree. Yeah, it was a healthy tree. It didn't really show any indication. The roots came up with these eucalyptus. It severed right at the base of the trunk, so the roots they broke. This tree held onto its roots. It just blew over. It was just, we had, maybe 70-mile-an-hour wind gust or somewhere around there, they said.
It might have been the soil was just particularly sandy there or something, that it just, the soil is geologic rather than tree related.
Well, like I said, the tree's been there a long time
Sure,
in that condition.
yeah,
It was a huge tree, and it's hard to say how that. I don't know if the property owner possibly did some work in their front yard and did something to the roots on, but it didn't seem like that because we had a complete.
Yeah, no, it was an
structural
impressive
roots
picture.
that-
Yeah, it was
that
an
came
impressive
out, yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, discussion? All right, well, I think we can close that item. Thank you very much. Very informative. It's really exciting to see this happening, isn't it? Because we haven't had any of this information before. It's wonderful. So thanks to everybody who's involved in that. Okay, moving on then. Let me come back here. I'm pretty sure it's just, subcommittee report, flex coordinator. That's fine. Future agenda items. Anything we want to mention for the future agenda items?
So I think we will have a tree removal. We're back on cycle.
Okay.
We had the missed meeting and then new commissioners and absent commissioners, so we'll be back on cycle with tree removals. And I believe we're also going to have Margot, our open space coordinator, come and do an update on her work. And we have an exciting nuance to this one is we have our first habitat restoration intern working with us. So hopefully she'll give us a update on the work that she's been doing.
All right, very good. And just again, for the new commissioners, this is an opportunity for you to say, hey, I would like to get some information on, this or that or another in a future meeting. Not everything can be accommodated, but this is your opportunity to suggest things. So just, not necessarily for this meeting, next one, whenever.
I did get a request from the Albany Tree Coalition to present.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, Jamira, if that's something that you would just have to, review and accept or not. But I don't know how that works exactly. So they're a new community group. So should I put them in touch with you? Yes. Okay.
Please turn your microphone on.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? All right. I think we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. See you next time in July. Yeah.
All right.